it's probably the first anime you saw. And if it wasn't the first anime you saw, I'd imagine it's probably amongst the first animes.
Denzel Washington's acting was so damn good that you just forgot all about that.
And let me just talk just a quick little thing about Michael before we end today. Biggest superstar, in my lifetime, and I imagine pretty much anybody's life.
Because it's very fast paced. There's a lot of information. Honestly, if you don't know about Darth Maul, there's a lot of Star Wars that you probably don't know.
All right, and here we are back once again with another episode of the Uncivilized Arts podcast. I'm your host, Bundy Hazan, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space. Today, I am joined by Sweet Bundy of Sweet Buzz Music. Lady Celeste Orchid is not joining us this week. She is away in Japan and hopefully be telling us all about that in the next episode. In the next episode, on the next episode, I guess it's interchangeable. One of them in or on. I don't know. You let me know. But yeah, hopefully she'll be telling us about that on the next episode. But for this episode, we still got a shows for you. We're going to be talking about Maul, so the new animated Star Wars about Darth Maul. We're going to be talking about Akira, old school anime. The Boys on its final season right now. A small indie game called Tales of Isenberg that I recently played. I'll tell you a little bit about it as well. And if we get time, we'd also be talking about WWE and a little bit more about Invincible. And I just might talk to you guys a little bit about the Michael movie because I saw that recently as well. And there's been a lot of talk about that in the news, but we'll see for that for a bit later on. But before all that, I do have a question for you, Sweet Bundy. Technically, I've got two questions for you. So before I ask the main question, the first question is, Wagwan, man, how you been this last couple of weeks?
Man, just been enjoying some good shows. Other than that, working and trying to hang on, trying to hang in there, which is what I've been doing. Doing good. As much as I can.
I hear that. You know what? Speaking of work, actually, so my day job, and I think I've told you what I do, but I'm not gonna say it on recording just yet. I ain't gonna bait myself out. You might be able to figure it out, but you guys might be able to figure it out. But basically, I'm in a position where I can find things, and today I found the PlayStation 4. Which was a pretty awesome find. It was mad dirty, like full of dust, so I had to clean it out, but it worked. So yeah, it was a pretty cool find. So yeah, that happened today. I found the PlayStation 4, and now I've got me a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox, which I found as well. So yeah, pretty awesome. But yeah, so I do have a question for you. And it's kind of based on, so like I said, I saw the Michael biopic recently. Then and there's been a lot of talk about it, but one question or one thing that I saw in the internet that kind of stuck out to me, and it's the idea of biopics, so movies based on real life people, and how important it is the actor looks like the person that they're portraying. So for yourself, like, do you have a thought and opinion on this? Like, do you think it's important when it comes to biopics that the actor looks like the person they're portraying, or do you think it's more important that as long as they can just act?
It depends on the situation, because if the actor is not that strong and that convincing, then it becomes a distraction and then it takes you out the immersion of the film. It goes all the way back to Malcolm X with Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington honestly does not look anything like Malcolm X, even with the setup, because Malcolm X was much more slim. As far as I remember, taller. Of course, the complexion is very different. I think the only thing that they had in common was the hair. But mind you, Malcolm X hair was naturally that color, whereas Denzel, of course, they had to dye or something. But Denzel Washington's acting was so damn good that you just forgot all about that. In fact, I remember there was some controversy when that film was coming out. Of course, I was a kid when it came out, but I remember reading about this when I was looking up information on the film years ago, and people were up in arms like, how could you cast them? Because of course they don't look alike. So everybody was up in arms about it. But once that film came out and they saw his performance, yeah, everybody shut up and just accepted it.
Yeah.
So but it's funny because for me, you have something like the Tupac film. When I watched that, I was like, first off, the guy, yeah, he kind of looks like Tupac, although this other actor looked way more like Tupac, which was the John Singleton's version of the Pac film that never got done. But regardless, it doesn't matter how much you make this person look like, the guy. If the acting is bad, anything that's going to break that immersion. Actually, no, sorry. Let me correct myself. If the acting is bad,
yeah,
but you look like the actor or the person that you're portraying, I should say, you're still going to be taken out the film because it's like, yeah, you got this look down packed, but this is not who this person is. And that was one of the issues that I had with All Eyes on Me. The performance was so everything, all these scenes, and it wasn't even just the actor, it was the fucking writing. Just kept taking me out the film because I'm like, yeah, I never knew this Tupac like that, but everything that we've seen screams nothing of this. And it wasn't even like they were specifically showing you the side we never saw of Tupac. No, they just did that what I personally call that biography puff, where we just go ahead and make it look as nice and inspiring and like it was all a part of destiny and everybody was aware of it or whatever.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. But yeah, and I think I agree with that because for myself, I'm kind of in two minds about it because, of course, as a fan, you want them to look like the person, right? Especially when it's something that you're really familiar with. But in the end, I feel like you need to have the skill down because if you just look like the person but you can't pull it off, it's a problem. It's a problem. Whereas if you look nothing like the person, but your acting skills makes up for it. I mean, sure, you might have the whole, but you don't like they did it, but you can get over that real quick. You know what I mean? I think a good performance, with a good performance, you can get over stuff like that real quick. So, yeah, from a fan perspective, it's nice when they look like the person, especially when it is somebody, say, you're more familiar with, somebody who's maybe a bit more recent. If you're going back, 300-400 years to talk about somebody who lived, 300-400 years ago when nobody now knows what they look like or has any real idea what they look like, then it's like nobody's noticing anyway. But yeah, so it's nice when it does. But I think in the end, fundamentally, if you had to pick between a great actor that looks nothing like the person they're portraying and a crappy actor who looks exactly like the person they're portraying, go with the great actor. And yeah, do the makeup, do the wigs, try and get as close as you can. But at the end of the day, a great actor's performance would always shine through. So as a fan, for sure, I want to see them look like it. But I think in the end, yeah, look, you go with the one who's just got the skills. With Michael, by the way, that kid definitely had the skills to pull it off. But I'll talk more about, potentially might talk more about it later if we get time. But yeah. All right, then. Let's talk about our first planned topic. So, Sweet Bundy, Maul. Okay, so Darth Maul. I guess we all know about Darth Maul. Well, I assume we know about Darth Maul from flipping out. I blanked on it. Star Wars, Phantom Menace. But of course, that was like 20 something years ago now, so younger people might not know about that. What about tell us about the show. I mean, is it worth watching? Is it? Do you need to see a Phantom Menace or anything about more before watching it? No spoilers, of course, as we're going spoiler free. But maybe just a tiny little bit if you feel you have to. But yeah, tell us about the new Maul animated series and your thoughts on that.
I mean, honestly, if you don't have knowledge from before, it's not one of those shows that you're just gonna jump into and necessarily like. I would say because it's very fast paced. There's a lot of information. Honestly, if you don't know about Darth Maul, there's a lot of Star Wars that you probably don't know. Um, with that said, for anybody else, yeah, this show is fast paced, straight to the point. It almost feels like the episodes are a little too short. I think they're about like 22 minutes a piece. It's I think all episodes are out for this season, so it's definitely worth a binge watch. You can watch everything right now. So far, I'm up to 6 episodes in, and it's really just about. I think the story takes place between the end of Clone Wars and whatever they had on Disney XD, which took place like a long, long, long time after or whatever the main Star Wars. But um yeah, Darth Maul is trying to go ahead. He has a crew and he's trying to build up money. I can't say for what, but he's trying to go ahead and build up
Okay, yeah.
that gang that he has going. And he runs into somebody that he might go ahead and try to convince to be his apprentice. So I can't go further than that without going into spoilers. Definitely worth a watch. The action is really good. It's fast paced. The dialogue is good. Um, the animation, the it's very similar to Clone Wars. So anybody who watched Clone Wars, definitely give this a watch. It's not one of those cash grabs. I didn't really hear about this until very recently, so I started watching it late. Otherwise, I probably would have been done by now. But I just started on this, I would say maybe yesterday, or if not the day before, and I'm already up to episode 6. So yeah, definitely worth the watch.
How long are the episodes? Are they like sort of 20, 30 minutes? We're talking like closer to an hour.
22, about 22 minutes.
Okay, so it's relatively short then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Okay.
feel short. They
Yeah.
feel a
So yeah,
little
for me,
too short.
okay, not too short. They need more,
Yeah.
more storytelling. Um, yeah, I mean, for me, I know about Darth Maul from Phantom Menace. That's was from his introduction, really. And I remember being in the cinema, watching that. So let me turn my phone off real quick before it starts buzzing or whatever. So yeah, I remember being in the cinema, watching that. And even though at the time I would say I didn't particularly enjoy the movie itself, I remember the fight scene between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn was absolutely incredible. I do enjoy that movie now, by the way. I think since I think I mentioned this before a few episodes ago, where my attitude at the time was a bit different to how my attitude now when it comes to it. So I feel like I enjoy that movie a lot more now. But even back then, when I didn't necessarily enjoy the movie itself, that fight scene, Duel of the Fates, the music playing, and everything about that scene was phenomenal. And I have read a little bit about Darth Maul since then. I wouldn't say I'm super familiar with the character though, but I have read a little bit about him since then, and he popped up here. And I think was it the Han Solo movie? I think it was, or one of the Disney ones. So yeah, it's really cool to see that he's got his own series, which hopefully I'll get a chance to watch that. I'm basically just watching stuff after you at this point, really. You whatever you watch, I'm watching afterwards, and but yeah, hopefully I get a chance to see that. But for now, you reckon that's a would you say it's a must watch or a more of a should watch? What would you say to that?
I would say should. I wouldn't tell people, yo, you have to watch this because I haven't seen anything mind blowing yet. Uh
Okay,
right now, because I feel like I'm partway through the season. Again, I don't know how many episodes they have this season. It could be 8, as far as I know. But um it's good. It's fast paced. I don't find myself bored at any parts. Um and if you like Darth Maul throughout Clone Wars and Yeah, actually, yeah. If you like Darth Maul throughout Clone Wars, you're gonna like him in this. He's pretty much, I wouldn't say the same, but but with proper. Basically, at the end, sorry, I'm stuttering because I'm trying not to spoil anything, but
Sure.
basically, how he is at the end of Clone Wars, wherever we left off with him, that's what's to expect. We pick off rate from there. So
All
yeah,
right. All right. Cool. Fair. Fair. All right then. Cool then. I want to talk now a little bit about Akira. Okay. So from a guy who wears black and has red paint to, my segues are terrible. Yeah, we need to get Cell back. It was so much better. All right, never mind. So I want to talk a little about Akira. So yeah, Akira is an old school anime. In fact, let me just double check the year real quick because it was 1988 it came out. And I think for myself, I'm pretty sure for myself, I may be blanking on certain details, but I believe for myself and a lot of people my age. So if you're, I reckon, about, let's say, 35 and older, it's probably the first anime you saw. And if it wasn't the first anime you saw, I'd imagine it's probably amongst the first animes you saw. I think for myself, it was almost certainly the first ever anime that I saw that kind of introduced me to that whole world. But yeah, Akira came out in 1988 and it was mind blowing back then. And recently it got re-released in the cinema in the UK as a 4K IMAX presentation. So yeah, got tickets and went down to go see it at the IMAX in the BFI IMAX in Waterloo. So apparently it's the biggest IMAX in the UK, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. So yeah, but it's a big circle IMAX right in the middle of Waterloo, for those who know it. But yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was an awesome film. Just, I mean, if you know the film, you already know it's awesome. And if you haven't seen it, then definitely I'd call it a must watch. I'll absolutely call it a must watch, whether you're an anime fan or not. That is a must watch, in my opinion. But yeah, seeing it again in 4K IMAX was a great experience. I think the only thing that put a kind of damper on it is that by the time I bought tickets, a lot of the good seats were all the good seats were taken. So where we ended up sitting was quite close to the front, and because the screen's so massive, right, you're trying to look up and then you're looking at the subtitles at the bottom, you're looking up, so you're basically just getting a neck workout throughout the whole movie. Just like doing this, left and right, oh, something over there, something's over there, so yeah, if you are gonna go to an IMAX, especially a big one like the one in Waterloo, if you can try to get the maybe the middle seats a bit further back, or something like that, But yeah, those seats were already gone. But even still, it was a great experience, and I felt like the film definitely pops in that a bit more than might as you're watching it on, say, DVD or something like that. It just felt sharper. It felt like some of the scenes definitely felt like they had more depth to it. So yeah, it was just an overall great experience. But yeah, I mean, have you seen Akira, by the way?
yeah, I have. I watched it a couple of times before. Like it's been a
Yeah.
few years since I last watched it. Um, I liked it. When I first saw it, I was really, I don't even know how old I was, but yeah, I liked it, but it always got weird towards the end. And even as I got older and I, watched it again and understood what led to that still. But
Yeah.
very, everything that there is good to say has already been said about this film a million times. And it
Yeah.
deserves it.
For sure. By the way, I do want to correct myself a little bit because a little while ago I said if you're maybe 35 or older. So I should probably say if you're about 40 or older. Um, but anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. It was definitely amongst the first, if not the first anime I ever saw. But yeah, no, you're right. I think a lot's been said over the years. I think at one time they were looking to make it into a live action movie, but I guess that fell through in the end. Um, I mean, I think it could work as a live action movie. I mean, end of the day, a great story is a great story regardless. But right, but I think the only problem with not the only problem, but the main problem I should say with making it into live action movies that anytime you do an adaptation, things get changed, right? I'm okay with that. It is what it is. That's just how it goes. Things get changed, especially if you're going from one format to another format. Certain things don't always come across so well, so it has to get changed. And I guess it's more like the way this film is a lot in 2 hours, and it works because it's an anime, because it's animation. How much does that translate? How that doesn't always translate so well into live action, and you could end up with taking a great anime and turning it into a movie. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll find the right writer, director, all that kind of stuff, and then make something amazing. But yeah, I think the history of animes to movies isn't always too great. So I don't know, maybe sometimes just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
I mean, they had a film from maybe like 2011 or 2012 called Chronicle. That was pretty close to the Akira storyline. Like as far as like the basics, I'm not talking about all the other elements like the motorcycle gang and all that. But yeah, as far as like the fallout and the build is pretty similar.
Okay, I
It
just
was
looked up
really good.
Chronicle. Yeah, 2012 sci-fi thriller. That's on Disney Plus. Okay, and Michael B. Jordan's in it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Mm. Actually, speaking of live action movies and animes, real quick, in your opinion, what do you think is? I don't know if I want to say best, but let's say because that depends. I ramble. What in your opinion is your favorite a favorite movie based on an anime? Like, where do you what movie do you feel did it well? Is what I guess what I'm trying to say. What movies do you think did it the best? Let me go with that. What movie do you think did it the best?
Well, specifically for anime, I would say the uh the Japanese live action of Death Note.
Okay, yeah.
They were pretty good.
I didn't say it, but I know the ones you're talking about. Okay, yeah. There was
Yeah,
three of
there's
them, I
about
think,
like
actually, in
three
the
of
end.
them. Yeah, there's three of them and a TV show. I didn't watch the
Okay.
TV show and I didn't watch the last film that they had, but it was pretty good. Um, the first two that I saw, and from what I could see of the show, because the show is its own story, and what I could see of the third film, it looked pretty much the same. So I trust that the third one was good as well. Um, hell, a lot of people give a lot of flack to uh the Death Note Netflix one, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just looked at it as its own iteration of Death Note rather than strictly trying to tell the story again. Um, it was easier to watch, but it still had its own flaws. Like that's a whole
Yeah,
review in itself. But yeah, it
sure. I
definitely
might
had
need to
flaws,
watch that
but
again, actually.
I wouldn't say it deserves all the hate that it got. Honestly,
Now, I might need to watch that one again and see if my opinion's changed. I remember watching it when it came. I wouldn't say I hated it. I feel like that's definitely a bit strong to say that. But I remember not particularly liking it very much. But yeah, maybe we need to watch it again and see if my opinions changed. Especially as I just watched Death Note, I've gotten through that again as well. And that's still fantastic. The series, by the way. So if you've not watched the animated series, that is still 20 years late. 20 years later, still fantastic. But yeah, for me, I would say in terms of just taking an anime and making it into a movie by say following the story, not necessarily keeping it exactly the same. Because, like I said, I don't think you could really do that. But in terms of still making an interesting story and still making a worthwhile film, and I feel like this opinion might be a little bit controversial, but I would say Ghost in a Shell. would be up there. 'Cause I know that got a lot of backlash for their casting choices, and I get it. But in the end, I feel they still made a pretty outstanding movie based on an anime. And yeah, they changed fits here and there, and it's not exactly faithful to the original anime. They took certain liberties, which is going to happen. But for me, I felt like the film worked, and they pulled it off. They still pulled off a pretty good, worthwhile film. So yeah, controversy aside, Ghost in the Shell, I think, is a pretty good movie based on an anime. You ever see that, by the way?
No, I know what it is, but I haven't watched the anime or the live action. But I know what it is.
But yeah, they're both worth checking out. They're both worth checking out, both the anime and the live action movie. There's a bunch of series that they've done as well, which I've not seen, but maybe worth checking those out too as well. All right then. So let's now talk about The Boys. Okay, so from no, never mind. I'm not going to bother segues anymore. Let's talk about The Boys. Okay, so season 5, final season of The Boys. Without giving any spoilers, what's your thoughts on it so far? I believe they are doing a weekly episodic. Is that right? Recent episodes each week.
Yeah.
What's your view so far on The Boys?
I'm still loving it. I'm a little worried because it doesn't feel like we're getting enough story, like we're progressing enough through the main story of this season. And what worries me about that is that this is the series finale season, and they have a spinoff, but the spinoff is a prequel. And then Gen V, I didn't even know it was gonna have a season 3, but season 3 has been canceled. So this is it.
Yeah, you had that. Yeah.
And I'm worried that we're not going to be able to. I get that we can't address everything. I'm not looking for that. But for the main story, I feel like they're going to cram in a lot in these last few episodes because if I'm not mistaken, I think we only have 8 episodes this season. And so far, I think I'm up to episode 5 now. We're waiting on 5 to come out this week. If not 6, I doubt that it's 6. It can't be 6. So it has to be 5. But either way, it feels like some time has been wasted in some of these episodes. And I can't really go into details about it, but pretty much it's like jokes, like joking scenes and just airspace. So it has me worried that we're not going to go ahead and really finish strong with this series finale, but I still got hope.
How many episodes are there this season? Do you know?
Again, I think it's 8, but I could be wrong.
And okay, and was it season? Sorry, episode was it 5? You said was the last one? Sorry,
I think 4 is the latest episode.
Okay, so possibly around halfway through the season. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. I see what you mean. Actually, one second. Let me see if I can find something out. I'm just typing real quick. How many episodes in The Boys season 5? Let's see what Google says. Yeah, 8 episodes. It's due to have 8 episodes. So if we're halfway through it and it still feels like they're not progressing much off. But it could be one of these things potentially could be one of these things where it's really slow for the first few episodes and then all of a sudden, whang, just everything all at once, and that could be a great thing. That could be a not so great thing. I guess we have to wait and see how it folds out. But yeah, I've not started on the Boys yet. I've just started on Daredevil. So my plan is to get through Daredevil and then move over to the Boys. But all right, cool. The let's see here. Episode 5 is due April 29th, and the final episode 8, is due on the 20th of May. That's according to Entertainment Weekly. So it's got a little bit of time. By the way, the way their recent these episodes weekly, they've doing it with the boys. They did it with Invincible. They're doing it with Daredevil as well. I think you said something like this of either the last episode or one before that, but you said something to the effects of like, keeping up with everything. Like, do you find like as you're watching these, especially when they have that recap in the beginning of the episode, like it's like such a great for they have to recap because I watch these recaps like, oh yeah, that happened, didn't it? You know what I mean? Do you find that you just like forgetting a bunch of stuff, because it's been like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks since like they aired it or whatever. Like, you find that you just forgetting stuff and just like really appreciate the fact they're doing these recaps to remind you.
No, me, I always skip the recaps unless it's a season start. Um,
It's just me.
the
That's kind
season
of
start
things.
is when I would need it. Like, I started watching Euphoria latest season, and there's like so much that I forgot. But once they show that recap, I start remembering more, and it starts to set the mood and everything. Um, that's why recaps that are important to the plot of whatever the season is important too, to set you in the right emotion and mind state for it. But yeah, the episode, like, unless we're taking a break or something, like that mid-season break or something, I don't like the episode recaps. It just pisses me off. I'm very impatient.
You're skipping the recaps on the was it Disney Plus and all that, all the yeah, bro, I'm watching those recaps. I don't know. Maybe it's old age or something. It's just old age. But I get to these things. I'm looking at the recap. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember now. I start writing things down now. Bloody hell. um, but yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the boys, and I guess with the show. I mean, I haven't watched this final season yet, so I'm going by tiny little things that I've heard. And I've been really trying to avoid spoilers, so I'm not really looking too deep into it anyway. But of the tiny little things I've heard, it does seem there's been some chit chatter about um the season and maybe Homelander more specifically. The show becoming more and more political and things like that. And to me, I've kind of felt like the show's always been political. Um, so I guess maybe it's more obvious now, or maybe they're a bit more in your face about it now. Either that, or people are just not paying attention. Like, or what's your thoughts on that?
I feel like people just feed off of each other, and also, n- you know, pretty much like you said, it's becoming more obvious. Whereas before, yeah, it was there, but that that line is getting shorter and shorter, and that's what has them where, well, I can't deny it anymore, so now I gotta defend. Um, and me, I don't fucking look at this and be like, "Ha, that's a good shot at Trump." I don't care about that side of it. When I'm watching The Boys, I'm watching it for this universe, this story, this fiction, and everything. And I want to see the story. I don't want any outside influence to go ahead and disturb that. So I'm not gonna sit here and fucking worry. I feel like my problem with this whole that whole thing, because I've heard it too leading up to this final season and everything. Hell, I've been hearing it since season 3 in reviews. You can see on Amazon reviews and everything of people complaining about that this is too political. I feel like political people, not all of them, but in general, are typically too political themselves. And what I mean by that is that they look at something, and instead of just watching it for what it is or reading it for what it is, they start throwing politics into it and start relating it to politics. Or even those type of people that you see when they watch a meme and they say, "Oh, that's just like the Democrats." What the fuck? Just watch what you're watching. That's it.
But I think there is an interesting, I guess, line to be drawn when you're producing content because on one hand, you can take any show, movie, whatever, right? And you can dissect it and analyze it and talk about it in ways that perhaps the filmmakers didn't really intend it to. And that doesn't mean it's wrong or bad because that's part of arts, that's part of filmmaking that you can do that it can mean different things to different people. But I do also feel like that if you're doing that, fine. But then also, understand that what you get from a film, what you take from a film or a show might not always be what the filmmakers intended. So though you might be like, oh yeah, this means this to me, that means that to me. Great, that was what it is to you. And it's interesting to see these types of analyses on films. But when people take the fact that they got that from the movie and then try to present it as this is the only truth about that movie. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to present like their view and what they took from it, what they understood from it, and then try to present it as this is the only truth about this film and that exists. And therefore, because I saw it this way, is that you see people do it with a Matrix. A Matrix, to me, is one of the best examples of how a film can mean so many different things to so many different people. But you'll still see people, whether in the comment sections of a Matrix video or making videos on YouTube, trying to give their opinion on it as the only truth about it, which fundamentally misses one of the biggest points about the film, But yeah, it's fine. Basically what I'm saying is that I feel like it's fine to dissect a film and analyze a film and to talk about a film in ways that are unique to you and what you get from it and how you can relate it to various things in your life and this, that, and third. And that's fantastic. That's great. I like seeing that sort of thing. But that's ultimately what it meant to you. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the only thing it can mean. And it certainly doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the filmmakers intended, because unless they say so, we don't know what they intended, So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. Anyway, but yeah, for me, I don't mind politics in movies or shows or things like that. I mean, it's kind of somewhat, I guess, inevitable with the way things are right now. Just kind of is what it is. It doesn't bother me. If you're making a good story, like say as long as it's a good story, as long as it's interesting, as long as you're making good points, as long as you're making things that people could think about or laugh at or whatever, and this, that, as long as you're getting something out of it, then yeah, stuff like that. It's like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
But hey. All right, and so from The Boys to Tales of Isenberg. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you have never heard of Tales of Isenberg. Would I be correct in saying that?
Correct.
Yeah, I imagine most people haven't heard of Tales of Isenberg, so that's cool. I'm talking about something ain't nobody know what I'm talking about. So Tales of Isenberg is an indie game, and the way I know about this particular indie game is because the developers of the game actually reached out to me, sent me an email maybe a few months ago now, maybe a month and a half ago, asking if I would like a free code in exchange for a review, and I said yeah. So I like free stuff. What can I say? I like getting stuff for free. So I did put out a review on my movie channel. And quick plug for those who don't know, I do have a movie channel. It's called Haze's Movie Room. So check it out. But yeah, I did do a review on the channel. But I want to talk about a little about it here as well, just kind of briefly. Because, well, it's an indie game and, and it doesn't get the big, attention that everything gets, that every the bigger games get. And granted, I know, we're, modest right now, but I feel like anything I could do to help, I want to try and do. So yeah, Tales of Isenberg's indie game. It's like £2.50 on Steam. It's a platform game. It's came out last March 2025, and it's a platform game. It's maybe less Super Mario though. Like if you're used to platform games, Super Mario's maybe not quite like that. It's maybe a lot more basic. And it's definitely low budget game, right? When you're playing it, you'll definitely get that low budget feel. But it's a pretty cool game. I mean, I think for what they did with it, it's a pretty cool game. It's still fun to play. There's a lot of content in there as well. Consider it's only like £2.50. Like there's a main game. There's like 3 other sort of story modes as well. There's like some mini games in there, like at least 2 mini games in there. So you're definitely getting a lot for it. And yeah, it's not going to be, it might not be like a blow your mind type experience, but £2.50 supports an independent developer, and you get a pretty decent game out of it. That doesn't take super long to complete. I think it took me like maybe an hour or so to get through. But I'm not playing like an hour all in one go, because man ain't got time like that. I'm playing maybe 5 minutes at a time or something, and you get to a checkpoint and then come back the next day or 2 or whatever. But of course, if you do have time to sit down for an hour and play it, hey, that's £2.50 well spent. So yeah, Tales of Isenberg. It's a Hungarian developer, Hungarian game, but it does have English subtitles. I would say that my one gripe with the game is that some of the voice acting, they've definitely felt like, rah, are you even trying? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, again, it's a cheap game. I'm not saying you've got to get like the big stars or whatever. It's like, but mate, okay, can you at least pretend like you want to be here? Like, what's going on? But yeah, most of the voice acting I say is it's fine. It's like £2.50. It's not going to be the most amazing thing, like I said, but it's fine for what it is. And yeah, it's a pretty cool game for what you spend your money on. And considering that, especially considering how AAA games right now are just skyrocketing in prices and likely to go up, it's just nice that there's something exists out there that isn't going to break the bank. Gives you a little bit of enjoyment, for the money you spend on it. And yeah, supports the developers to hopefully make, bigger and better games in the future. So yeah, Tales of Isenberg on Steam for £2.49, or however that equates to in your local currency. Yeah, check it out. Let's see here. So yeah, we've got a little bit of time. So you wanted to talk about WWE. And yeah. I did have to ask about specifically with that what you would talk about. You want to talk about releases. The last time we talked about WWE, you talked for like 25 minutes, and I was like, okay, so we're talking about this. All right, let's reel it in.
So
let's reel it in. So yeah. So you wanted to, so people got released in a WWE. Who got released, and what's your thoughts on that?
So recently, TKO. I mean, nothing officially has been said of who decided it, but reportedly, TKO, who is the company that owns WWE now, since Vince McMahon sold the company, they were the ones making calls to the superstars and letting them know, hey, you've been released. So they've released a lot of people, actually. Give me 1 second. Let me refresh this list. So Alba Fire, Aleister Black, Andre Chase, Apollo Crews, the whole Wyatt Six, which includes Bo Dallas, Joe Gacy, Nikki Cross, Dexter Loomis, Eric Rowan, and as well as released Chris Allen. Some of these people are developmental, so they haven't even made it to NXT yet. But so on and so forth. The one that really shocked me was Kairi Sane. All those people losing their jobs is, first off, is terrible. And the thing is, the reason why I said Kairi Sane was the most shocking to me was not just because she's my favorite out of the list, but also she was involved in one of the main storylines. It seemed like they were going to have her do a very hard mid-card push. Everything seemed to be leading up to that, but suddenly she's released. Now, some more stuff came out today that some people were trying to say are some rumors are going around that Kairi Sane was the one that wanted to be released. But again, this is all like new, and after the very disappointing lead up to WrestleMania, WrestleMania itself being disappointing, things are not really looking too well. Of course, this isn't going to be a company that just goes belly up and just fucking dies anytime soon. But what they're going to do with all these bad decisions, in my opinion, is make their competition even stronger than they ever would have gotten a chance to be. As long as AEW takes the right people and make the right decisions and do not follow in the footsteps of WWE, at least not too soon. It could really be some big ass competition. Hell, right now people would argue and say they are competition, and I would say yeah, but WWE is like still the big leagues. It supersedes that whole wrestling bubble. Not many people outside of the wrestling bubble really knows about AEW yet. But now's the opportunity for them to rise up and do what they got to do and start building their own foundation of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, because I remember like back in the McMahon days, Vince McMahon days, rather more specifically. You'd hear about releases from time to time, and it always kind of struck me as it's so weird. Like this massive company, like this company is not struggling. Why are they releasing so many people? And when the helms was a Triple H, and it was a TKO, and that when that whole thing happened, you'd think like, okay, well, they're under a different management now. They've got different partners, different owners. Some of these things shouldn't be happening. Certainly not to this level. But then here we are. Here we are. And apparently I'm looking at it now like it's not even the first time it's happened since they've been with TKO. So, but yeah, this is pretty big. I mean, I would say, because I'm not watching wrestling as much these days, there's a lot of these I don't know, but the ones that I do know, Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, that's a shocking one. Like Zelina Vega was a pretty big star, from what I remember. You mentioned Nikki Cross, Uncle Howdy, Most Seat Machine Guns. I think they were pretty big as well. So that's
they just recently
surprising.
came from AEW.
So they just recently came over and then they get released.
Yep.
That is mad.
Yeah.
Eric Rowan, yeah, you mentioned about part of the Wyatts, and that's a shame as well because Nikki Cross and Eric Rowan. Because I remember after Bray Wyatt passed away, they did the Wyatt Six as a tribute to Bray.
Yeah.
And now they just get rid of him. That is so sad. And then Apollo Crews has been there for years. He's been there for years. He's always been kind of like, at least when I was watching a bit more frequently, it seemed like he was, I guess we say lower to mid card. But he'd show up consistently. He'd put in the effort. He'll do the work. But he never really got that push when I was watching it more frequently. I assume he never really got it even afterwards. Or is that accurate? Or I mean, you watched it more than I do. So.
Yeah, they even pulled him back even more. So he wasn't on TV. As far as maybe he was on NXT, but not on the main shows. Definitely not.
Man, that's a shame. That's a shame because I remember he'd always be putting in work. He'd always be putting work. He'd always be showing up. He'll do what he needs to do. He'll go out. He'd put on a good show. He was athletic. He had a good look. He good, all that. But he just never got that push. It was such a shame, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Shame. Now he's gone. So what would you say, or what would you hope happens with WWE from here on out in terms of how they recruit and manage talent? What would you think should be happening to avoid sort of the mass releases and things like this in the future?
They need to start continuing to develop who the younger talent. Right now, we're depending on too many people who are older, and eventually they're going to phase out. We already seen it with Brock Lesnar retired at WrestleMania. John Cena retired recently, and AJ Styles retired. So there's gonna be more. Eventually Randy Orton is gonna retire. He's already like on his last years. Um, and same with Rey Mysterio. It seems like I know Rey Mysterio wants to keep doing it, but everybody is getting up there in age now. Um,
Mm.
you keep relying on these big numbers and the biggest stars, but you haven't taken the time to really build on the guys that are just starting out. They're starting to do that a little bit. They're sprinkling in that, but they need to go overtime. And after these releases, they brought a whole bunch of new talent to the main shows. However, I think a lot of the people that are making these decisions with the storylines, with the matches and everything, they're too focused and out of touch. They're too focused on trying to make the most money. And I get it, but you got shows in between each PLE to build a story, to make people care about these guys who are going to be in the PLE. One of my biggest complaints about WrestleMania is that they had this wrestler named Carmelo Hayes that had the United States Championship for a while. It was defending the belt frequently, and all of a sudden he loses the belt, doesn't even get an opportunity for the belt at WrestleMania. He gets an opportunity to get an opportunity at it or something like that, and lost that. It was a number one contender match. Sorry, and he lost it. So that means that he wasn't going to be at WrestleMania at all, and that's because whoever was in the decision of that thought that Sami Zayn would draw more money than Carmelo Hayes. And I feel like you could have just had a historic moment. You could have built on these characters, and then by next year, the money's going to double because they would see what a great performance they would have done at WrestleMania, and it would have introduced them to more people and had more eyes on these stars. So, in short, uh, besides that, I will also hope that they get new writers. Whoever is doing the creative, they are out of touch. They don't know. They're trying to recreate shit that's been done a million times before already. You gotta get some new writers. You have to.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said about relying too much on older talent, because I remember way back in I guess this would have been mid to late '90s during the sort of WWE versus WWF versus WCW back then, and WCW at the time was relying heavily on the older, bigger stars, um, to sort of draw the numbers. Whereas WWE was like, had fresher faces and, doing cool new stuff and, creating their own stars. And it just seems like that lesson has been lost somewhere. Like they were
Mhm.
doing it right back in the day. And it's like somewhere along the lines, they just copied the company they bought, and we all saw how that ended up. So, yeah, that's a shame. I mean, course, use your older talent. They're supposed to use your older talent. Let's use them to help the new stars, but like you say, build up the new stars because they are the future. They are the
Mhm.
future. I mean, I remember Randy Orton when he was the new star, years ago. I remember his debut actually, back before he even had all those tattoos. I think he had maybe like one tattoo, if even that many, but way, way, way back in the day, and he's had a great career, built up over, I guess, 20 something years at this point. He's been doing it a long time. But yeah, like you say, he's not going to go forever. None of them are going to go forever. They're all going to want to retire one day and hopefully retire while they're still in good health, and not battered and can't walk and all that sort of thing. Like they all want to retire and still be able
Mhm.
to, go to the park and enjoy life. So yeah, they can't go forever, and they should be building up the new talent. And they have, I guess, they have these, the developmental things that they do, but which is good, right? But perhaps one of the issues is that they're doing it, but they're not maybe putting as much faith into it as they should be, And in the end, like people are coming up, but then they're just being let go because they're not John Cena. Like, bruh, how long will it take John Cena to become John Cena?
Hmm.
But
John
hey,
Cena almost got fired when he was new.
okay, I don't know that.
Yeah, when he first started out, he did something that Vince McMahon didn't like, and he was about to get fired, but I forgot what happened. But yeah, imagine if he got fired back then.
Oof, indeed, indeed. You know, you just gotta let people. In fact, even Roman Reigns, I remember when he because he used to be with the group. I forgot what group it was called, but I remember when they broke away from
Chill.
the group. The Shield, that was it. Yeah, when he broke away from the Shield, and they were all doing their own thing. It was clear that they wanted Roman Reigns to be the next big thing, but it just wasn't working, and they really just needed to let him be himself, which they just wasn't doing at the time. And then eventually, you know, as they let him, you know, be more and more of who he is and more of how he just rates the crowd, it started to work and he started to get more and more over. You know, the whole thing with the bloodline, you know, the family, you know, that whole thing, like that was a great storyline. That was a great thing they did. But yeah, I remember like right in the beginning, it just I think they tried to make him too much like The Rock, you know. They tried to make him sort of, and it's like he's not The Rock, he's Roman Reigns. Let him be Roman Reigns. You know, when
Yeah,
when they finally started letting him be Roman Reigns, he started to take off more. I think some of these execs forget that people always respond to real. Yeah, we like The Rock, we like Triple H and all that cool stuff, Stone Cold. But at the end of the day, what people really like is the real. And when you and wrestling is well, yeah. I know what we talk about wrestling. Come on, I get it. Yeah, I know. I recognize the irony. I get it. Okay, before anybody's jumping in the comments, I recognize the irony. But ultimately, you still want to be able to believe it. And when it's just too much, when they're doing something that's so outside of who they are, and it just doesn't feel right. Even if you can't always put your finger on it, even if you can't always explain it, you're just kind of like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, nah. But yeah, all the wrong lessons learned is what it sounded like to me. All the wrong lessons learned.
yeah. And Roman Reigns is
Um,
actually the whole tribal chief character. That's what got me back into wrestling.
acknowledge me. Yeah. All right. So let me talk a little bit now about Invincible. So from WWE. Yeah, forget it. Never Invincible. So yeah, you talked a little bit about Invincible. I think on the episode before last. But at that point, we're only up to I think episode 5. I think 4 or 5 at the time when you talked about it. Now the final episode of Invincible has been released, so I've watched all of them. I think I watched the last episode yesterday, actually. And yeah, just to give a few thoughts on the entire season. No spoilers because we're not doing that right now, but you know, I'm trying to, you know, yeah. I mean, if you're a fan, you're gonna watch it anyway. So we'll start there. If you're a fan, you watch it. You don't need me to tell you to watch it. You're already watching it. What I thought was interesting though is the development of Mark as a character. Like if you remember Mark from season 1 and the whole thing about, you know, Amber, and you know, when Amber finds that he's a superhero and you know, the whole time, but you know, she was upset that he didn't take, you know, that whole thing, right? And then Mark's kind of reaction to it about, you know, well, I'm saving the world, you know, this is what I'm doing, and all that sort of stuff. And then you have a moment in this season where it feels like Mark went from one extreme to another in terms of how he views being a superhero and saving the world, and more specifically, how that should be seen by the person he's with, you know. Because something happens where I ain't gonna lie, if it was me, I feel like I'd be mad. I'm not gonna say what it is. If you've seen it, you already know. If you've seen it, you already know. But I feel like if that was me, I'd be mad, and I think I'd be very justifiably mad. But well, we'll leave it there before I say too much. That might spoil it. Um, but yeah, but I did think it was interesting in terms of his character development. And the season in general, though, it felt like a lot happened, but also it felt like not much happened at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, especially in the early episodes where it feels like so much is going on. And then by the time you get to sort of the end of it and you realize a lot of what was going on in the early episodes didn't actually, let me say too much there. But it just felt like a lot was going on, but also not much was going on. And the way it ends, it's an interesting way because apparently, and this isn't a spoiler because it's been in the news, but apparently they want to go up to, I think, at least 9 seasons, right? Apparently they want to go up to at least 9 seasons. Whether they actually get to 9 seasons, of course, depends on, Amazon and all the execs up there and that kind of thing. But apparently they want to go up to at least 9 seasons. And I'm looking at this like, I don't know if you've got 9 seasons, 3 more, what we know, five more seasons left in you. I don't know if you've got 5 more seasons left in you. I like the show. Don't get me wrong. I like the show. It's a great show, but I don't know if you've got 5 more seasons left in you. So I don't know. Unless there's like all the things that happen, they're gonna do something with, or it means something. I don't know. Well, we let the creators create, right? We let the creators create, and then we'll receive their creations, and we'll see what we think of it then. But at the moment, my opinion, I don't know if you've got 5 more seasons left. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, overall, still enjoyed it. Still worth watching. I think if anybody hasn't watched it, it's definitely worth checking out from season 1 onwards. Season 1 to now, it's all worth checking out. And yeah, I guess be interested to see, because apparently the next season might not be that long a wait as well, according to something else that I read, that in season 5 might not be too far away to in the future. So hopefully we're not waiting. Well, hopefully it's a good show regardless, but that's the main thing. If we have to wait a little bit longer, I'd rather that than just turn out a bunch of crap. But apparently it might not be too long is the current rumor. But yeah, definitely worth watching for anybody who hasn't checked it out. And yeah, that was Invincible season 4. What would you say to that? I mean, I'm kind of assuming you've watched it on more as well. What would you say to Invincible season 4?
I loved it. I loved it from start to finish. Even the one, I shouldn't call it a filler episode, but at this point, it is a filler episode. That's the one with Dark Blood. Yeah. Other than even with that episode, I enjoyed it. And hell, it helped that they released all 3 episodes right off the bat. I think they already knew, um, that episode was kind of not going to really develop this season just yet. Because it's one of the abandoned storylines that from the comics apparently. And yeah, I'm still looking forward to whatever they do with that story as well. Not as much as the main story, of course, but still, this season didn't feel like time was wasted. It utilized everything that they had, in my opinion, got straight to the action. I say only even the last episode, there were moments where it's like a teaser. But it's to put you in the perspective of the character. So yeah, I got annoyed by it, but I understood it and it made sense. And therefore I was like, yeah, that's just a personal nitpick of mine, but I totally get it. I would not remove it or say that they did anything wrong with it anyway. Yeah, man, I love this season. In fact, that is one of those few times where I would rewatch a season again because of how much occurred. I loved it. I can't wait to see what they do next. Of course, I could go ahead and read the comics, but I don't want to. I want to be surprised. I want to continue with the story that I have right now, and yeah, but it is tempting.
Yeah, and I think for myself, I mean, I'd rather. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with comics, but I think because you've already started, you've gotten quite far with this animation. reading the comics feels like you're just going to spoil it for yourself. I get that. So yeah, I think I'd rather avoid it for now. Maybe at some point in the future, maybe once it's all wraps up, maybe go back to the comics then, maybe. But yeah, for now, I think I'll probably leave it as well. But what do you think of the ending in terms of, they're planning maybe up to 9 seasons? Like, how do you feel the way it ended in terms of, do you think, do you see 5 more seasons in this, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like they definitely have a lot of story to tell. It does seem like, it's reaching a point where it's going to reach that climax, but with the reveal after the like the post credit scene, that opens up a whole nother door of things. I'm just wondering how they're going to make it work, because the character that is in charge of that, he doesn't really come off as the type to go ahead and utilize it. So I'm very interested, but then again, um, I got a lot of faith in this story. The shit that I was complaining about early on in the series, they already sorted through and made right on it. So I feel like these guys are on the right track, and I can't wait to see how they make it work. It's going to be hard to convince me, but fuck it, we'll see it. We'll see
Yeah,
where it
indeed.
goes.
Indeed. I mean, hopefully, if it does go to 9 seasons, hopefully it is great, because if anything, I would be happy to be wrong and surprised. What I mean, in a good way, if they can pull this off. It's just more, I guess, as somebody watching it, as somebody following the story, I guess in my mind, there's a limit in how I see it goes. But if in their minds that they've already gone past that limit, so they've already figured out how to make it work and how to make it a great story, for seasons, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and so on and so forth, then hey, I'm good with that. You know what I mean? Just because I can't see it, if you can see it and you can make it work, I'm good with that. So, but yeah, it does end in an interesting way, is what I was saying. Especially when I saw that about 9 seasons, I'm like, all right, we'll see,
Yeah.
and I'll be glad to be wrong, but we'll see. All right then. We've gone just over about 60 minutes, but yeah, let me just talk just a quick little thing about Michael before we end today. Just a quick little thing. So Michael, the biopic based on Michael Jackson, biggest superstar, in my lifetime, and I imagine pretty much anybody's lifetime. He's alive right now. His fame during his life was incredible. Like, if you were around to remember how famous Michael Jackson was, and you already know. But I think people who didn't grow up knowing how famous this dude was, when people talk about it, it's kind of hard to explain just how absolutely ridiculously famous this dude was. Like, it was insane. I remember, this is before the internet was a thing. It's before social media was a thing. It's before all of that. We had to go to the shop and buy CD, well, not even CDs, tapes. We had to buy tapes and vinyl. So yeah, when we talk about Michael Jackson's fame, it was incredible. He died in 2009, and this movie just come out 50 years old. I believe, actually, he died at 50 years old in 2009. So he wasn't an old man. But yeah, so this movie that comes out based on his life. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because, one, I watched it. I can't lie, I'm a Michael Jackson fan, and there's definitely a bit of a bias, because like, he was such a big part of my life from like early childhood. Like, literally my earliest memories, from when you start retaining memories, some of my earliest memories involve Michael Jackson. So this is somebody who was like a part of my life through his music, from really, really young up until 2009, which still represents most of my life, right? That still represents most of my life. So yeah, there's definitely a bias when it comes to Michael Jackson. I ain't gonna lie. Um, and watching this movie as a fan, yeah, I think it's fair to say that it does. It's if you're a fan, you're gonna like it. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, I mean, people who said that it appeals to the fans, it does. I mean, I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. It absolutely appeals to the fans. Um, as as a piece of history, as something that's recanting or retelling a historical event. Yeah, it's not super accurate. Like, I think that's also fair to say as well. But then biopics, of course, never really are. Anytime you base something on a person or event, they're never going to be 100% accurate. They're going to take a few creative liberties with the storytelling, because then they're going to fill it into 2 hours. So there's going to be things you miss out, things you kind of embellish a little bit, that sort of thing is going to happen. But I think overall, it's pretty true. Like, they don't, at least as far as I can tell, I don't believe they're telling me bare-faced lies about, what happened during his life. But there are, I think, but yeah, there are some things that they miss out, some key things that they miss out, apparently due to like legal reasons, that where they couldn't include certain things. And that's why they're not there. But putting all that aside, putting all the fact that I'm a Michael Jackson fan aside, the fact that it's a biopic, if you're just looking at it as a film about a person, doesn't matter if they existed or not, just this film that's telling a story about a person, it does still tell a good story, in my opinion. It does still tell a good story. Maybe not the most mind-blowing story ever, but it's still a pretty good story. And I think it's still a worthwhile story, of somebody who, you've seen all the things that they went through as a child to as a teenager and into their early adult years, and how they go through it and come out of it. And I think it tells that story. I think it tells that story pretty well. So I think if you're a fan, you're gonna love it. I think if you're not, if you're a hater, then you're just a hater. You're gonna hate it anyway. This is what it is, right? But I think for people who maybe aren't as familiar with Michael Jackson, people who didn't grow up, I think you can still enjoy it for what it is, as just a story about a person. But yeah, like, this guy was absolutely ridiculously famous. People be fainting, and I'm sure you've probably seen that clip of him at the 1990 something Super Bowl, or maybe I can't remember which year it was, but it was like the first Super Bowl where they had a full on halftime show with a signed artist. Apparently before that they used to do like the marching bands, and that's the thing. Eventually not just eventually, but because of what happened with in Living Color, the following year they get Michael Jackson to the halftime show, and this dude, not even exaggeration, just got on stage and he's just standing still, like with the most minimal movements over like a minute or so. And the crowd's just going wild, like absolutely crazy. Dude's just standing there. Dude is just standing there, and the crowd is going insane for a man standing. Do you know what I mean? He was just standing, for like a minute or something like that. But yeah, he was just such. He was a talented musician, a talented artist, an incredible singer. And yeah, I'm aware not all the news about him was good news. I'm I'm not that naive. But yeah, even still, like he what the music that he put out and the inspiration he gave to people during his life, it's yeah. And I think this film does a good job of capturing that. Apparently, though, there is plans, whether it happens or not, we guess again we'll wait and see. But apparently there are some plans to have a sequel to this, because this film basically covers his childhood up until about 1988. And most of the movie is set, say, during the 70s and 80s. So where it ends, I thought it was a good place to end this story, right? And if they are making a sequel, it could be a really good place to continue the story, because going into the 90s, that's where things get a little bit more controversial, right? So, yeah, if that's the plan, then I think, yeah, ending it there was a good place to end it for this story, and then going into the 90s, and we'll see what they do if they do make a sequel, and potentially a third that maybe covers the last part of his life up until 2009. Have you seen Michael, by the way? Did you see it, or do you plan on seeing it?
Nah, I don't have any plans seeing it. I've seen a lot of people love it and everything, and that's great. Um, I just never, you know, it looked too weird for me. Like just from the trailer and everything, and the voices that I don't know, it seemed way too forced. Um, Years ago they had, I don't know if it was a whole movie. I remember it as a movie or if it was like a mini TV series, but they had the Jackson 5 and no, the Jacksons, an American Dream. That shit will forever be my go-to of a Michael Jackson biopic. There's been no other Michael Jackson biopic or showing of Michael Jackson being portrayed in a movie better than that film right there. TV series or not, I don't care. Uh, so when I saw this, yeah, they had some actors that I liked, or one of the actors I liked, the guy who plays Joe Jackson. Love the actor,
Oh yeah,
but
Coleman
he had on
Bingo.
all those prosthetics and the makeup, and I was like, God damn, like it just threw me off. And then even I think his name is Jafar Jackson. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Jafar
Uh,
Jackson.
he
Yeah,
it always, and this is just an opinion. And it's what it is. But for me, it always kind of bothered me that he seems so keen on trying to, act like Michael Jackson, and it's like, damn, even his own kids don't do any of that shit. They might pay homage
but
here and there, but nothing where to the extent of Jafar. Jafar is always from what little I've seen of him, I've always seen
wait,
even long
so I'm a bit
before
confused. Are you talking about acting like Michael Jackson in a movie, or are you talking about acting like Michael Jackson in something else?
in something else.
Okay, because I was like, wait, of course he's gonna act like Michael Jackson in the movie. That's a weird
No,
thing to
no,
say. All right, so you
no,
talk
that
about something else. Okay, right.
yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
All right.
Um, so it always bothered me, always came off weird. And then when they announced the film, I was like, oh, I guess maybe that makes sense, but it wasn't so recent where um but again, a lot of times the pre-production phase is a very long time. But yeah, it just, I don't know. It's not for me. I haven't watched it,
Oh,
but from what I've seen, definitely not for me. So yeah, hard
that's
pass.
that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I would say that in my opinion, Jafar Jackson absolutely nails the role as Michael. Like there are times in this movie where it feels almost like you're watching an old footage of Michael rather than a movie of a young kid playing Michael, because like they nails the look, they nailed the mannerisms, the acting, and perhaps all that stuff where he's pretending to be Michael all that time just paid off. That's all practice for this role. Because yeah, he absolutely nailed it throughout the whole movie. He did really well. I mean, to my understanding, this is his first anything like in terms of professional acting. So I guess he's done other things before in terms of TV appearances, but it seems this is his first professional acting role. Um, but yeah, he nailed it. He was incredible as Michael. So yeah, looking forward to see how that continues. If it continues, hopefully it does. Hopefully they do make a part two. So but yeah, wait and see. Wait and see. All right then. So I think that might be a good place to wind down this podcast. Do you have any last words before we do, Mr. Bundy?
No,
All right then. In that case, yeah, that's going to be the end of this particular episode. Drop any comment suggestions in the comments. Hit us up on the Twitters and all that. Where else are going to put them, right? Hit us on the Twitters, Instagrams, and stuff like that. Hopefully, Sel be back on the next episode. She can tell us all about Japan and all the other cool stuff she's been up to over the past few weeks. But yeah, that's gonna be all for now. So, guys, thank you for watching and or listening. Until whenever, if ever.